to go around and have each of you answer the questions individually. And they are on the agenda. The first one is, do you recommend that, and your recommendations are going to Christopher Williams, the acting park superintendent, that Christopher direct his staff to continue to work with the current physical design of the trail. And as we saw tonight, with additional refinements that are likely, that may come into play, and you saw already how that walkthrough showed a few things between the difference between having something on paper and walking through and seeing it physically. So is your recommendation that we continue with this current physical design? And as you can see here, and Melanie just asked me about this, each of these questions is designed to get additional comments from you. So if your answer is yes, what is it you like? I mean, what is appealing to you about what you're seeing in the trail design? If your answer is no, what are your concerns about that current physical design? The second one has to do with the evaluation criteria, and we have worked, we received comments. You guys kind of were the original authors of what we wanted to look at. We've actually been doing this since meeting 1, and we've continued to develop and refine as we've gone along. So the green copy that we laid in front of you tonight and that I emailed you earlier is kind of the final for right now evaluation set of criteria. And again, we're asking, do you agree with what's there? And if your answer is yes, what elements are particularly appealing to you? If your answer is no, what are your concerns about the evaluation criteria? And then the third question is, do you recommend that Christopher Williams direct his staff to continue with the pilot project? And this means really that just going to that next level. A project manager gets assigned from Parks. A planning group starts to work on it in conjunction with the funders, the Cheesty Green Space at Mountain View folks. So it's really more like, do we get your stamp of approval for continuing on and having this continue to develop with Parks having oversight capacity and activities. What I'd like to do is just dive into your responses and give you as much time to respond as possible. We have not seen or heard from Phil, and I'm sorry about that. I'm going to double check that he didn't tell me in an email that he wasn't coming. I don't remember that. And I do have comments from Curtis that he emailed to me that I want to read to you at some point. So do we have a volunteer to start? Tom.
I'm gonna give a long-winded answer, apologies in advance, but I won't need nearly as much time on the second 2 questions. I gave some thought to how to answer this because I have my personal preferences, of course, but also know that I'm here to a large degree to represent the feelings of our communities. And so I had to think about, how do I know exactly what our community wants? We've had comments, but how do I quantify those so that I have a really good idea? So I did some looking around. Social media was mentioned. I looked at Facebook, and this is not that significant, but opponents of the trails have a Facebook page. It has 67 likes. Cheesty Trails and Bike Park has a Facebook page. It has 1,376 likes, for whatever that's worth. So that helps in forming my opinion. More meaningful than that, I think, are the comments made during this meeting and all the email comments sent to the PAC over the last, 6 weeks or so. I made a count, including all those comments tonight. Some of the comments are related to process, and so I don't count those. I wanted to see how many people favor no trails or more limited trails. And I come to 38 total. That's over the course of the whole PAT process. Comments favoring trails or more trails, a comprehensive trail plan, that comes out to 83. So that's more than double. I also want to make note of the petitions. There's this, was passed out, the change.org petition advocating for foot traffic only within Cheesty Green Space. It's been in place for over 2 years, I understand. It has collected 483 votes, and I want to make note of that. I also note, at the same time, a lot of the people who signed that are from out of town, from as far away as Port Townsend. There's someone without a name in Bellingham. There's someone from Thailand, United Kingdom, Corvallis, Oregon. Also, a number of people who signed this petition twice. Some of those in this room. Another petition was circulated by residents of New Rainier Vista. I think it was last December. It was done over the course of less than 2 weeks. And virtually all of the signatures are from within Seattle. There may be 4 that were outside. But the total number on that petition is 840. I think that's significant. So all of that helps me in informing my recommendations to Seattle Parks. But the measure that helps me the most is the increased citizen participation in the forest via the volunteer work. This proposal has helped serve to propel an exponential increase, and we can see the effect over the last year. Among all the Seattle parks, last year Chiste was second only to the entire Burke Gilman Trail in volunteer activity. There were 1,609 volunteers working 5,187 hours, removing mountains of trash and invasive plants, bringing 1,200 new native plants to the park and planting those. This is what I consider to be the biggest endorsement of a comprehensive trails plan. All of this means, I think, that the vast majority in our community believe that mountain bikers bring no more harm to the forest than walkers. In fact, their trails are half the width. They tend not to walk their dogs. They tend not to bring off-leash dogs. They tend not to talk while riding. And they bring volunteer energy. More importantly, I think that a multitude has signaled that it's time for a new relationship with our urban forest, a fresh paradigm for the stewardship of urban green space. We cannot treat it like it's the National Arctic Wildlife Refuge, not like some precious, fragile specimen in a petri dish. The forest is part of our community. We are part of it. By bringing communities in, we bring volunteer work and vitality to the woods, and we bring a new vital resource to our communities. So, finally, my recommendation to Chris Parks is to work with current physical design. That my only concern is that it's been diluted, that it makes no sense to have some connecting trails across Chiste Park that would make it more interactive, the communities more interactive, and the plan overall more robust. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Who's next? Go around the circle. We can go around in a circle. Weston?
Sure. I want to start actually with thanking all the community members. I think that's been done a little bit, but I don't think I've had a chance to do it. No matter who you are, the amount of support and interest in what's going on here is huge, and I really, really appreciate that. I think it inspires us up here to do our job better, and it's just a great thing to see, so thank you. So over the past 3-4 months, as this process has been going on, I've spent a lot more time in Chiste than I had previously. In the past couple weeks, I've been visiting it very with specific things in mind, looking for certain things. And a couple of times I've noticed that I've been out there in the middle of the park, and I was standing on a trail. And it made me realize that I know for sure that there will always be a trail of some sort in the middle of Chiste, whether this group decides it or not. We can't take the fact that it's in the middle of the city away from this space. It's an urban forest. And by denying that fact, we are setting ourselves up for, in my opinion, a failed space. I've lived in Seattle for more than 30 years. I've visited a range of our best wilderness in the city. You can go to Seward Park and see amazing forest, healthy, beautiful. You can go to Schmitz Park, West Seattle, do the same. In both those cases, you can walk through the middle of the park on a trail. It's my belief that those trails aren't hindering the wildlife there. They're not destroying the ecological integrity. In some cases, I think the case could be rightfully made that those trails help support the nature, the wildlife, however you want to frame it, in those spaces. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and just jump ahead and say that yes, I do support moving forward with the current physical design. However, we do have a thing here that says with additional refinements, and we talked about these. And I think I would like to recommend that one of those additional refinements be a reconsideration of cross trails in the space. We've heard a lot from the public about connecting the community. I think that's something that we didn't succeed with this design. We didn't have a way for folks from one side of the green space to get to the other. We haven't done that. And it's my belief that people will continue to do that on their own, and we should be finding a better way to make that happen. That's all for now.
How about the evaluation criteria?
Well, we're going to go through
Yes
the
to that.
questions on...
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
All three questions.
Yeah, that was,
Yes.
I get some words.
Yeah. But we have to move relatively quickly. We'll come back to you, Tom.
Yes, generally I support the evaluation criteria. I particularly was happy to hear Doug speak about the conversations I've had with SPU. I have more confidence in this, knowing that that's taken place. I'm happy to see that we have certain items identified as being inspected by parks personnel specifically. I feel strongly that this is a really robust process, and I want to make sure we have professional record keeping and professional data taking. And so I feel better about seeing those things as well.
And I'm assuming then it's a yes with moving forward the third question with the pilot project. David?
All right, well, first of all, I have to say that I did not do my homework, and I did not prepare a statement before. I was really curious to hear what the community had to say, so I appreciate all of you for showing up. I think Tom put it really well. We represent the community. I don't directly live in the neighborhood. I spend a lot of time in the neighborhood. I work in the neighborhood. I live pretty close to Lake Washington Boulevard, so I have the privilege of bringing my students and my children down there walking along the lake. But I know that I ride my bike to Beacon Hill a lot, and this is an area I used to teach at Kimball Elementary right on the hill, and I think a couple of the citizens, neighbors nailed that there's no connectivity between the New Rainier Vista and the Beacon Hill community. So for as far as the design goes, the physical design, I would like to see more, some put community connected trails. I really like that term because I think that nails it. And I think one thing we keep using the term wild. Chastity Green's not really a wild space. It might be undeveloped, but it's not wild. If we took a photo essay of the current plants, I think we'd find more blackberry and English ivy than we would actually native plants. So I agree with the fact that we should try to proactively encourage more native animals and species by eliminating by getting crews in there to help eliminate the English ivy and the blackberry. As far as the current criteria, I have no problem with it. I think it looks pretty good. I would particularly like, it wasn't brought up earlier, I particularly like the questions for surveys of users of Chastity trails. I don't know if the public has a chance to see that. I particularly like that. As far as we can continue the project, absolutely, I'd like to continue with it. I guess for me, I'm sure, I guess one thing that stood out to me is this democracy in action, and this is really what it's all about. And to be able to sit down, I think we don't want to take for granted the fact that we're in a country where we can have all of these processes and have people sit down. And if we look at the number of pros, which Tom, you brought up earlier, and it's overwhelming for it. If we tally what we have today, it's overwhelming for the project. Due process, 5 meetings for me works, you know? I don't think we'll never get total consensus on this project, and we could due process it to death, but I think at a certain point, you just need to cut it, you need to stop it, you need to move on. I feel like that's where we're at right now. For me, it's interesting in a very liberal city that's anti-corporate in a lot of ways. It's interesting that a lot of people, that this project, there's no corporations behind it. This is all from the people, for the people. And so we're sitting here, and I feel like we're splitting hairs over, well, is it wild enough? And, you know, what about the wetlands? I agree with that, but also, I think we have a chance right here to really set a precedent, not only for the city, but for the state and the country, where this is driven by the community. This is paid for by the community. This is paid for by one group of people that decided they want to make a difference in their community. There's a lady that came up, I don't know if she's still here, 30 years ago, she stopped a development. I mean, I'd like to applaud her. She's still there, I'd like to applaud her. Thank you for your hard work. Let's do the same. Let's continue that spirit. Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Let's continue that spirit and take advantage of this space. This is a gem. This is a jewel that we have. We're sitting on it. And I want all of everyone in our community to enjoy it. I just ran into some students in the gymnasium, and I thought, wow, I've never run into these kids on a trail, because they can't get to the trails. This is a chance for me to run into my students right here and to bring my kids there, run into people I run into all the time at Mariners games or Sounders games or at light rail, but now I can interact with them out in nature. So, yeah, that's all I want to say.
Okay, great. And I just want to clarify, Dave, because you said, it sounded like you were in favor of the current physical design, the number one. You just mentioned that refinements in terms of the cross trails. I think.
Yeah, I like to see the cross-community trails.
Okay, all right.